Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Horror yesterday evening in New York City. A gunman who drove to New York City from Nevada wreaked havoc at around 6 o'clock yesterday evening. Went into a building at 345 Park Avenue. This is a picture of the gunman. You could see him clearly walking with that, what is now known as an M4 rifle. It's said that he fatally shot himself after his attack, which set off a chaotic scene that rippled into the heart of Manhattan during rush hour. He was armed. We know now, they were saying in the beginning that it was an AR-15 style rifle. Is actually now they know for fact it was an M4 that you can see clearly in this video footage. He went into the Manhattan skyscraper Monday evening and began firing, killing a New York City police officer and 3 other people, and critically wounding a 5th person before killing himself. I believe that person that was critical is now dead. So the total amount of people that lost their lives, including the gunman, is 6. The rampage took place blocks from Rockefeller Center and St. Patrick's Cathedral in a building owned by Rudin Management and housing offices for the National Football League and the investment giant Blackstone. The workplace mass shooting was particularly shocking in the center of New York City, where similar violence is almost unheard of. The slain officer was identified as the Durul Islam, 36, who was assigned to a Bronx precinct. He'd been with the department for 3.5 years and was working in the building at 345 Park Avenue in a private security role. Officers frequently work off-duty employment to make extra money to support their families. And apparently this officer, the Darul, had 2 kids and 1 on the way. So he obviously needed to work to support his family. So folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your thoughts. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
So, folks, yes, this is absolutely, absolutely heartbreaking. We remember the shooting that happened in Midtown with Luigi Mangione when he killed the CEO of United Healthcare in a cold-blooded shooting. But this is what's known as an active shooter. I want to play NYPD Police Commissioner Tish, who's going to give, this was from the press conference yesterday.
6:28 p.m., the 911 call center started receiving multiple 911 calls for an active shooter inside of 345 Park Avenue at 52nd Street in Manhattan. What happened next is under an active investigation, and details are still coming in, but here's what we know so far. Surveillance video shows a male exit a double-parked black BMW on Park Avenue between 51st and 52nd Streets, carrying an M4 rifle in his right hand. He walks towards the building's entrance. That individual was seen exiting the BMW alone. The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire. He makes his way to the elevator bank, where he shoots a security guard who was taking cover behind the security desk. One additional male is shot in the lobby, per his own statement from the hospital. The shooter then calls the elevator, which opens in the lobby. A female exits that elevator and he allows her to walk past him unharmed. He goes up to the 33rd floor, which is Rudin Management, and begins to walk the floor, firing rounds as he traveled. One person was struck and killed on that floor. He then proceeds down a hallway and shoots himself in the chest. In total, we have 5 victims shot, our officer and 4 other innocent civilians, plus the shooter. The shooter is believed to be Shane Tamura, a 27-year-old male with a Las Vegas address. The vehicle he exited is registered in Nevada to Mr. Tamura. Inside of that vehicle, officers found a rifle case with rounds, a loaded revolver, ammunition, and magazines, a backpack, and medication prescribed to Mr. Tamura. The vehicle was searched by our bomb squad and found to be clear of any explosives. The initial investigation shows that Mr. Tamura's vehicle traveled cross-country through Colorado on July 26th, then Nebraska and Iowa on July 27th, and then in Columbia, New Jersey, as recently as 4:24 p.m. today. The vehicle entered New York City shortly thereafter. According to our law enforcement partners in Las Vegas, Mr. Tamura has a documented mental health history. His motives are still under investigation, and we are working to understand why he targeted this particular location. 345 Park Avenue is a commercial office building whose tenants include the NFL, Rudin Management, KPMG, and Blackstone. At this time, 4 of the 5 victims are deceased, including our NYPD cop. Our officer was transported here to New York Presbyterian along with 1 male civilian, the lone shooting survivor, who is in critical but stable condition at this time. 2 other civilians, 1 male and 1 female, both deceased, were brought to Bellevue. The 4th civilian is a female who was found dead on the 33rd floor of the location. Additionally, there are 4 other victims being treated for minor injuries sustained in their attempts to flee the scene. Victims' names are being withheld at this time, pending family notification.
So absolutely horrific. And from my perspective, and every life, of course, is equally valuable, but a police officer trying to support his family, off duty, working at a detail to make extra money for his family. And he's the first person in this incident that was shot. Just absolutely horrific. And when we see, this is the surveillance video of him walking across the plaza with that M4 rifle. He obviously knew that he was not going to survive this incident. He double parked his car, left his car, of course, unattended, and walks across this plaza with an M4 rifle, fully intending to wreak havoc, fully intending not to get out of this situation alive, fully intending to die during this. And you heard a report that he's possibly, according to the Nevada police, he's got some mental illness. Well, I would almost assume that to be the situation. But he drives across country to take part in this horrific active shooting. And then, of course, takes his own life. Most of these active shooter incidents, if the gunman is not killed by the police, and it's usually a he, 90-something% of the time, it's a male, the shooter takes his own life. So you can imagine the havoc that was wreaked yesterday during rush hour, this person walking into this building and just starting to shoot people. Just absolutely horrific. I'm going to play this clip.
So many terrifying stories from people who were inside the building at the time of the shooting.
Eyewitness News reporter Lucy Yang live in Midtown with that part of our coverage tonight. Lucy.
We're on 48th and Park Avenue, just a few blocks south of 345 Park, where you can see behind me the crime scene engulfs a large radius. Tonight, we watched as employees were carefully and methodically escorted out of the building once it was deemed safe. They were shaken, they were stunned, and just beginning to process what happened tonight. Midtown office workers found themselves in the crosshair of a murderous shooter.
We heard gunshots, so we just ran.
There happened to be a networking event in the first floor auditorium of 345 Park Avenue when the bullets started flying. I'm told hosted by Blackstone, filled with enthusiastic young people hoping to make a great impression. Instead of positive feedback, they heard gunshots and ran for their lives. Those in attendance tell me some fled into the control room of the auditorium, others ducked under their seats. Some tried to escape down the stairs to the lobby. Those who stayed would then wait hours for police to escort them out safely into a night they will never forget. Alden Silvestri says his roommate worked on the 27th floor of the building under siege and was sheltering in place.
He's safe because I've been texting him. I would equate it to, I'm from Los Angeles, so I was here when the fires happened. Similar kind of feeling of being like unable to control your circumstances.
Now, when we first arrived on the scene shortly after the shooting, there were some employees from the building who were already on the street, out of harm's way. But their hearts were focused on their colleagues who were still hiding in closets and bathrooms inside the 44-story skyscraper. With no windows, they had no idea where the gunman was. In any case, those on the street wanted to make sure their colleagues would be escorted out safely. So even in the immediate aftermath of this harrowing event, there was great concern for their fellow workers. We're live in Midtown tonight. I'm Lucy Yang for Channel.
So a lot of you guys are talking about the security failures, and I'm not seeing security failures. All right. First of all, he's caught going across the plaza, and I'll put the picture up on the screen. That's called this is called layered security. So he's caught coming in the building. Now, in this day and age, do we expect doormen at this swanky 345 Park Avenue building to be carrying an AR-15 or an M4? Or I don't even know if the doorman or the security on the door was in fact armed. I don't know. But are we going to require that at some time? That the security at a Park Avenue building, I would imagine that there are access control to get into the building, but once you're in the vestibule, then I would expect you to be confronted by security. But to say that the security there should have a weapon equal to an M4 or an AR-15, I mean, could it get to that one day? Yeah, but at this point, it's not. There is no, if security on the front door here, if they even are armed, it would probably be with a handgun, not with an M4 AR-15. That's not. We're not there yet as a society. Will we get there at some point? Perhaps we will. Sad, right? This is Bill O'Reilly on News Nation.
Bill, there is something about violence to political motives or messaging motives, if you want to call it, being normalized in America. There's also something else about this, though. Seeing that man walk in with that gun to an office building in New York, I think gives a lot of folks just this incredible feeling of unease and unsafeness.
Well, I can't speculate about any of that. I can tell you that in New York City, there's a great fear on the part of many people. And that is because of the rise of social disorder. We've seen it in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Baltimore, other towns. But in New York City, the largest and most powerful city in the country, people are very uneasy. And the reason they are is because the system has collapsed, the justice system. And the police do a tremendous job because violent crime is actually falling in New York City. And that's because of the skilled police officers, not because of the courts, which kick out people, as everybody knows, with no bail who are violent. And a lot of the crimes are not reported. So I don't know how accurate this crime stats are. But I live 8 miles outside of the Queen border. And when I have to go into New York City, everybody knows me. And I know the city as well as anyone. And they engage me in conversation. I always ask, hey, how do you feel about, going to work? How do you feel about going on a subway, the buses? How about your kids? Are you worried about them? 100% are very, very uneasy about what is happening in the city. And it's not hard to figure out why it's happening.
No, I hear you.
People in charge.
What's the difference, though? And I think it's important as we watch this moment crystallize on national television. We are all focused on it because it happened in Midtown Manhattan. Over the July 4th holiday, 4 killed, 14 hurt in Chicago mass shooting. There was a similar event in Philadelphia. These kinds of mass shootings happen almost every weekend in major American cities, but not in Midtown Manhattan. They're in predominantly African-American or minority communities. They're often at night, and nobody seems to care. What is it about this that strikes that nerve?
Well, this is a targeted killing, could be political, but I'm not going to speculate because I don't know. In the Philadelphia and Chicago, those are neighborhood killings. Those neighborhoods are controlled by drug gangs, and they wipe out the other drug gangs. And that's what you see, this horrendous level of violence fighting over the narcotics trade. But again, the commonality is that the people in charge don't really care. They're not trying to solve the problem. Mayor Adams in New York City, Governor Hochul, governor of the state, they don't try to solve the problem. They don't. And the legislature is insanely left-wing. So once you have a culture of violence, which you do have in New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, you have a culture of violence.
Can we compare the two things, though? And I think you're right, undoubtedly, that Chicago and Philadelphia and New York and the lawlessness and what you see in the subways and people pushing people into the subways and on and on and on, those are all connected. And it's not always just the gangbangers who get killed in those shootings. But this is different, right? This is a guy who, by multiple reports, traveled from Las Vegas and went to this one building and went to the 33rd floor. These are different events. I think what you may be getting at, and I think it's a good point, is we got a statement just in the past couple of minutes from Zoran Mandami, who, as you know, is running for mayor of New York, is now the Democratic nominee in New York, who wants to defund the police. He said, "I'm heartbroken to learn the horrific shooting in Midtown, and I'm holding the victims, their families, and the NYPD officer," he said, "in critical condition," means the one who died, "in my thoughts. Grateful for all of our first responders on the ground." Does this now violence that we're seeing in New York suddenly change the conversation about electing a guy who wants less police and wants to remove so many of the barriers to violence and says that, well, prisons just don't really do much good?
This conversation, timely, right? Because this happens, an active shooter. But they're telling the truth. New York City was once the safest large city in America. And during the Giuliani terms, and then, of course, the 3 terms of Mayor Michael Bloomberg with Commissioner Ray Kelly at the helm, New York City was still the safest large city in the nation. All of the sudden, the old expression, if something's not broke, don't fix it. Well, politicians, we followed Bloomberg with de Blasio, who was a disaster for this city, 8 years of de Blasio. And undid a lot of the progress that the NYPD, and not just the NYPD, but the criminal justice system in itself, had secured for New York City in making it the safest large city in America. And now you have prosecutors who don't want to prosecute. You know, when Alvin Bragg became the Manhattan District Attorney, he had like a 9-page manifesto against prosecuting criminals. And the people that live in New York City, they pay the salaries of these people, and they don't appreciate the ideology of coddling criminals as people get pushed onto the subway tracks, as people get mugged, as people get stabbed, as people get intimidated going into ATMs, all those things that are quality of life that was once a cornerstone of policing in New York City. It's like we went backwards. So I'll go back to O'Reilly here, but that's what they're talking about.
New York City will collapse if Mandami is elected mayor. It'll totally collapse. There'll be an exodus of affluent people out. The tax base will crash. The police will, look, they're demoralized now. I don't know how they do it, by the way. I really don't know. My grandfather was in by NYPD. Police that go in, they know that they make one false move, they're going to be charged. I was earlier this summer in Tokyo and Beijing, both cities bigger than New York City. You don't have this. And the reason you don't have it is because the authorities in both of those cities will punish criminals to an extent that's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean,
Criminals
Bill,
know
I mean,
it.
do we really want to go live in a situation where we have the same rules as Beijing? I mean, I'm not sure
No, but
how we make
Tokyo
that.
is a free city.
Eh.
You don't want to live in a police state like Beijing, but Tokyo is a free city. But the message is the same. You get out of line, even if you shoplift, you're going to get punished. That message has disappeared in liberal New York City. This is always going to happen, by the way. You're never going to be able to prevent it. You'll hear tomorrow the wailing about how did he get the gun and this and that. And these people they're not honest people. Everybody knows that if you ban guns tomorrow, the black market, the criminals would have 200 million guns to sell, and they would sell them. So, I mean, that's just a fallacious bunch of garbage. But what I'm trying to get across to all Americans is this. You cannot run your country like this. You have to punish criminality, particularly violence, and you have to punish it harshly. And that goes for narcotics trafficking as well.
But
And
isn't
that's
there a
not
difference?
what
He's O'Reilly's sort of getting off topic here. We're not going to solve all the world. We're not going to solve all the world's problems through talking about it right now. But one of the things that a lot of folks are asking about right now is, what was this man? What was his motive? And apparently, he has according to the law enforcement in Las Vegas, Shane Devon Tamura, and that's the name of this active shooter, had a documented mental health history, but his motives are still under investigation. So apparently, he had potentially CTE, that brain injury that from playing football. And could that have been the reason he targeted 345 Park Avenue, because that is the home of the NFL? This investigation, of course, is ongoing, and we still need to understand his motivation. What was it? What was his motivation? But getting to some of these topics like O'Reilly was just talking about. And here you see him clearly on the screen, walking across the plaza towards 345 Park Avenue, holding an M4 at the side of his body, an M4 rifle, clearly having bad intentions, and here's the thumbnail. Right now, the motive is unknown, although I understand there is a note that he left behind. Inside his vehicle, which was a black BMW that he drove to New York City from Las Vegas, investigators found a rifle case with rounds, ammunition, magazines, and a loaded revolver. Also found was medication prescribed to him. It was not reported what that medication was. Tamura's vehicle was very recently driven across the country. It went through Colorado on Saturday, then Nebraska and Iowa on Sunday, and it was in Columbia, New Jersey, as recently as 4:24 p.m. Monday, the day of the shooting. And it entered New York City shortly thereafter. Video, according to the police commissioner Tisch, security video showed the shooter get out of a double-parked black BMW while carrying an M4 rifle. The building security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. The gunman then shot a woman taking cover behind a pillar and fired at others before he took an elevator to the 33rd floor, where he opened fire again and killed another person. According to Tisch, they're working to understand why he targeted this particular location. Again, tenants of this building include the NFL, Rudin Management, KPMG, and Blackstone. Officials familiar with the investigation told NBC News that the suspect left a note at the scene voicing anger that his mental illness may be linked to his having played football. Investigators are looking into whether that is a reason why he targeted the Park Avenue building that houses the NFL offices. The officials stressed that the investigation is early and ongoing. In addition to the weapon and ammo, a cell phone was found at the scene, and attempts would be made to get in it to see what it might contain. Two officials familiar with the matter said that in the note found at the shooting scene, the suspect wonders about CTE as being a possible cause of his mental illness. The police officer and another male were killed, as were two females, according to Police Commissioner Tisch. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell told NFL employees in a written message that a league employee was seriously hurt in what he called an unspeakable act of violence at the building. One of four employees was seriously injured in this attack. He's currently in the hospital and in stable condition. NFL staff are at the hospital, and we are supporting his family, according to Goodell. The shooter, Tamura, Shane Devon Tamura, attended high school in Southern California, where he was a football player, according to his former teammates, who said they were stunned to learn he was a suspect in the shooting. You never would have thought violence was something you'd associate with him, former classmate Caleb Clark said. Everything he said was a joke. So, again, very early in this investigation. That's what we know so far. The investigation will be continuing. I want to go to, whenever a New York City police officer is killed in the line of duty, it's the most horrific thing to all his compadres, whether you know him or her or not. A hole develops in your heart. And we all knew and we all know that part of doing this dangerous job of being a police officer is that the possibility exists that you could make the ultimate sacrifice. And of course, no one ever wants to see that happening or imagining that happening to themselves or someone that they know and love. But it is a reality of police work. And this reality happened yesterday evening. This is Mayor Adams.
Were assassinated. I remember watching their family members enter the hospital. That loud yell of, "No, God, please tell me it's not true." I thought about that today when the notification came over from the police commissioner that we had a number of shots fired, and we're still unraveling what took place. And our hearts are heavy. 5 innocent people shot tonight. We lost 4 souls to another senseless act of gun violence, including a member of the New York City Police Department, Officer Islam. He served in the 47th precinct. He was just 36 years old and a 3.5-year veteran of the department. He was doing what he does best, and all members of the police department carry out. He was saving lives. He was protecting New Yorkers. He's an immigrant from Bangladesh, and he loved this city. And everyone we spoke with stated he was a person of faith and a person that believed in God and believed in living out the life of a godly person. He embodies what this city is all about. He's a true blue New Yorker, not only in the uniform he wore, but in his spirit and energy of loving this city. And early tonight, I met with the officer's family. I told them that he was a hero, and we admire him for putting his life on the line. This was his dad's only son. Now think about Jordan, my child, and it's unimaginable to experience a loss of this magnitude. And 3 of the innocent civilians are also dead. 2 males and 1 female, and another male is seriously injured, fighting for his life in critical condition because of the violent, despicable attack. Additionally, the shooter is dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. To be clear, 6 total tonight died, 1 including the perpetrator. And I'm sorry, 6 total was shot tonight, 1 including the perpetrator. No words can describe this act of evil, a man who takes the life of others who are innocent. And no words can fill the void that has been left by this tragedy. Our hearts break for the families and friends of the victims. We pray for the swift and safe recovery of the injured. Horrific crime reminds us all how easy it is to gain access to a gun. Gun violence has scarred so many neighbors and ripped apart too many families across this entire country. And we will continue the fight to do all we can to protect our city. But tonight we mourn for those who were killed. And we pray for the families as they go through this painful moment. And as I stated, 5 innocent people were shot. And the perpetrator was shot. We will continue to do what we do as a city, and that's fight to protect innocent New Yorkers. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you, sir. The information that I'm about to provide is preliminary and subject to change. At 6:28 p.m., the 911 call center started receiving multiple 911 calls for an active shooter inside of 345 Park Avenue at 52nd Street in Manhattan. What happened next is under an active investigation, and details are still coming in, but here's what we know so far. Surveillance video shows a male exit a double-parked black BMW on Park Avenue between 51st and 52nd Streets, carrying an M4 rifle in his right hand. He walks towards the building's entrance. That individual was seen exiting the BMW alone. The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire. He makes his way to the elevator bank, where he shoots a security guard who was taking cover behind the security desk. 1 additional male is shot in the lobby, per his own statement from the hospital. The shooter then calls the elevator, which opens in the lobby. A female exits that elevator, and he allows her to walk past him unharmed. He goes up to the 33rd floor, which is route and management, and begins to walk the floor, firing rounds as he traveled. 1 person was struck and killed on that floor. He then proceeds down a hallway and shoots himself in the chest. In total, we have 5 victims shot, our officer and 4 other innocent civilians, plus the shooter. The shooter is believed to be Shane Tamora, a 27-year-old male with a Las Vegas address. The vehicle he exited is registered in Nevada to Mr. Tamora. Inside of that vehicle, officers found a rifle case with rounds, a loaded revolver, ammunition, and magazines, a backpack, and medication prescribed to Mr. Tamora. The vehicle was searched by our bomb squad and found to be clear of any explosives. The initial investigation shows that Mr. Tamora's vehicle traveled cross-country through Colorado on July 26th, then Nebraska and Iowa on July 27th, and then in Columbia, New Jersey, as recently as 4:24 p.m. today. The vehicle entered New York City shortly thereafter. According to our law enforcement partners in Las Vegas, Mr. Tamora has a documented mental health history. His motives are still under investigation, and we are working to understand why he targeted this particular location. 345 Park Avenue is a commercial office building whose tenants include the NFL, Rudin Management, KPMG, and Blackstone. At this time, 4 of the 5 victims are deceased, including our NYPD cop. Our officer was transported here to New York Presbyterian along with 1 male civilian, the lone shooting survivor, who is in critical but stable condition at this time. 2 other civilians, 1 male and 1 female, both deceased, were brought to Bellevue. The 4th civilian is a female who was found dead on the 33rd floor of the location. Additionally, there are 4 other victims being treated for minor injuries sustained in their attempts to flee the scene. Victims' names are being withheld at this time, pending family notification. Officers from our Special Operations Division are currently conducting a secondary sweep of the entire building. I want to be very clear. We believe this to be a lone shooter, and there is no longer an active threat to the public. But today, 4 innocent victims are dead. Among them is NYPD Police Officer Didarul Islam, 36 years old, 4 years on the job. Officer Islam was married with 2 young boys. His wife is pregnant with their 3rd child. He's assigned to the 4-7 precinct in the Bronx. He was doing the job that we asked him to do. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice, shot in cold blood, wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city. He died as he lived, a hero. I want to extend my profound sympathies to all of the victims and their families, and to the brave NYPD cops who today lost a brother. There are still many questions that we have to answer, and we will answer them. But for now, our city is in mourning for the innocent lives lost. May their memories be a blessing. Pat. Oops, sorry.
Patrick Hendry, president of the PBA. This is a devastating night for our city, for our police department. Pure evil came to the heart of our city and struck innocent people. And one of our police officers who were protecting those people. We lost 4 people tonight, and our hero brother who gave his life for this city. He was a hardworking police officer who was proud, we know, from hearing from his family, to put on that uniform and shield of a New York City police officer every day and went out and did his job. And he went out every single day to provide for his family, whether it was overtime or whatever he had to do to provide for this family. That's what he did on a daily basis. And his family is devastated. A wife losing a husband who provided for that family. father who's not going to see his son again. And our hearts of every New York City police officer right now is hurting. We're hurting for our brother police officer who we lost. We're hurting for that family. We're hurting for all the victims and hurting for all the families of the victims. And we're all asking, why? Why did pure evil come here? And we know our police department and our law enforcement partners will work tirelessly to get those answers. But now our job as police officers is to be there for this family, to support them in any way that we can, to come together as a city, to be there for these families of the victims. And we will continue to do that because that's what New York City police officers do. And we're going to continue as police officers to go out and protect this city because we know that evil can strike at any time. But police officers are willing to risk their lives to protect everyone in this room and protect everyone in this city. So we ask all New Yorkers to pray for our police officers' family, to pray for all the victims and their families. And we need to stand united going forward. We thank you for covering this story.
Yeah, we are also joined by our federal partners from the ATF and the FBI. I want to give an opportunity to our partner in the FBI, a special agent in charge of the New York City Fields Office, Chris Rea.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, on behalf of all the men and women of the FBI, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to the victims of this senseless tragedy. And also personally, I want to extend my condolences to the police commissioner. And just please know, ma'am and Mr. Mayor, that you have the full force of FBI New York and the full force of FBI to get to the bottom of the answers. Upon learning of the incident this evening, FBI agents immediately deployed to the scene to assist our NYPD partners. While this remains an NYPD investigation, the FBI's New York office stands ready to provide any and all resources to assist our partners. Initial checks of our internal systems have not revealed any information about the subject, but when and if more information becomes available, we will share what we can, when we can, with the public. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do some on-topic questions, folks. We'll start with CNN, please.
Just a quick question about the police officer. When he was standing in the lobby, did he have a chance to fire his weapon at the shooter, or was he completely dead? And also, when the shooter got to the floor, approximately how many people were on that floor and what did they do?
All of this information is under active investigation. Videos are being reviewed. And as this investigation continues to unfold, we'll be able to answer those questions. But right now, it's an active investigation.
Miles Bloomberg.
Commissioner, if you could just talk about, he was working paid detail there, to people who might not know what that means. And was he the only officer working that paid detail there?
I believe that there were 2 officers in the building working paid detail assignments in different parts of the building.
And what is that? People, may say he's on his day off working in a uniform.
Paid detail is a program that we have set up at the police department that allows companies to hire officers in uniform to provide extra uniform security.
Rocco?
Commissioner, did the shooter, based on interviews with witnesses, did the shooter say anything at all? And secondly, did he leave behind any manifesto, any writings or people in the vehicle?
I already described what we found in the vehicle, and it's too early in the investigation to discuss anything more.
VP?
Thank you. Is there any indication that he had a prior connection to New York or to the real estate industry? I believe that's the business we're using.
As I said, too early in this investigation to tell, but nothing that we have seen preliminarily.
Dean?
Commissioner, can you talk about what the medication was that was found in the vehicle?
I cannot.
And can you speak about any prior law enforcement contact you may have had?
I cannot, other than to say that our partners in Las Vegas made us aware of a mental health history.
Any questions? Yes, you. Officer Durham.
Please share your history whether or not
That's what I said already. It was an M4 rifle, and we also found a revolver in the vehicle with ammunition and magazines. He did have a license in the state of Nevada.
One.
Was there any intelligence indicating that this location was at risk beforehand? And were you considering this a targeted attack or an act of terrorism?
At this time, it's too early in the investigation to tell.
Thank you. Well, the press is like insisting on answers to questions. And again, this was from last night, that it's too early in the investigation to give them these answers. But some of the things that we do know, I mean, he had a mental health history. This is what flies in the face of everyone. He had a mental health history, yet he had illegally possessed, that gun was registered to him. So legally possessed gun. Obviously, he's still not allowed, even though he possesses that in Las Vegas, he's not allowed to bring it into New York City, travel across state lines with an M4 rifle. And again, a mental illness background. So you question, well, why does he have a gun permit? Why does he have a legal gun permit if he has mental illness? And apparently the note that he left behind referred to potentially CTE, which is a brain injury. He allegedly said from playing football. And it's curious to think that potentially he targeted a building where the NFL was. Was he blaming the NFL for his brain injury that he allegedly had? I don't know. I don't understand. So, we can all conjecture about this, but again, it's very, very early in this investigation. How absolutely scary is it, though, that a man can drive here from Las Vegas across numerous states, double park his car and get out? He was obviously targeting 345 Park Avenue. And we listed some of the potential reasons as to why, but very scary. Gets out and then just starts to shoot people. Absolutely outrageous. Some of you folks talking about security. There was a cop in the lobby. He was the first one killed, an armed NYPD police officer. So what level of security do we need if a uniformed NYPD police officer in the lobby of a building couldn't protect that building, and the officer bravely gave his life to do so? And his name is Darul Islam, and I believe he works in the 4-7 precinct. He was working an off-duty security detail to make extra money for his family. So we all question that. So and when we question, was security was lax, there was an armed New York City police officer in the lobby. How much better security could you have than that? Are we in a society where doormen at 345 Park Avenue need to carry AR-15s or weapons as powerful as that? I think not. This is from CBS New York.
Including an NYPD off-duty officer working a security detail. The NYPD just posted a picture of the officer, Darul Islam. Investigators say a man seen on security camera carrying a rifle walked into an office building in Midtown and shot the officer. 3 others dead. Police say the suspect then shot himself on the 33rd floor. The officer was married, father of 2, with another on the way. Police say the shooter had a mental health history, but right now his motive is under investigation.
Investigator Masa Saidi has been digging into the shooting suspect's background.
Yeah, Masa, the big question, of course, is that motive, and it doesn't sound like we have a lot on it yet.
Yeah, we just heard the police commissioner say that we do not have a motive. So as you guys say, we have been trying to learn as much as we can about this suspect. We attempted to reach out to his family. We have not been able to make any contact yet. But as we've been reporting all night, he did have a concealed carry permit that was issued back in 2022. That's good for 5 years. It was still active. And that means that when this permit was issued, if the process down in Nevada worked as it should, there would have been no major red flags for law enforcement at the time. Because here is what makes you ineligible to get a CCW permit in Nevada. If you have a felony conviction, you're barred. If you're convicted of stalking, you're barred. Same if you've habitually abused alcohol or drugs, for example, or if you've been admitted to a mental health facility within the last 5 years. But at the presser, we heard the police commissioner say that she's in touch with LVMPD. Those are the authorities that issued this CCW permit to the suspect, and they say that the suspect has a documented mental health history. So we heard our expert talking about some of the red flag potential issues that could be raised by that. Now, we know there's 44 floors on this building and Park Avenue, including Blackstone, NFL, what we've been reporting all night long. Now, police say that from the lobby, he went to the 33rd floor, he fired rounds, he killed one person on the 33rd floor. And now we know that Rudin Management, that's the landlord of this building, that is where they were located. And before we knew about this tragedy that potentially they've lost one of their own, we did reach out to them to try to get comment about the news as it was unfolding. But, you know, we're going to continue to work this, guys, and try to get as much information as we can. But an M4 rifle, a revolver allegedly in this gentleman's car, came here from cross country. What happened? How did we get here? If what police say is true.
And prescription medication too, the commissioner said as well, they found in searching that car. It's a clear sign that we need to look at security in these office buildings that we all work in, because
I mean, how ridiculous is that? I mean, as I said, the security couldn't have been any tighter. There was a New York City police officer in the lobby. What is she talking about? We need to look at security. The guy showed up with an M4 semi-automatic rifle. What do we need? Do we need a tank at the door of these buildings? I mean, I find it disingenuous when the news reports that, oh, what do we have to look at? You look at security. He was caught on video going into the building, walking across the plaza. Should someone have run out there and confronted him and shot him on sight? I mean, look, how long did it take him to walk from his double parked car, put that rifle at his side, and walk towards, across this plaza, walk towards 345 Park Avenue? So I just get when the news says, oh, we have to examine security. I think security was pretty tight.
somebody can clearly now walk in with a rifle and just start shooting.
Casually stroll in the most amazing way fashion.
So scary.
Yes.
Masa, thank you.
Thank you, Masa.
And of course, we will continue to have coverage on CBS News New York.
So you know, yes, lots of questions, but you know, this is early on in this investigation. So we don't have all the answers. And when will we have all the answers? Well, maybe never, but we see this man walking across the plaza. Scary, right? Scary that he's walking across the plaza with this M4 rifle that he possessed, even though he had a mental health history, he apparently possessed it legally. That is quite scary, right? So what is it that if the Las Vegas police knew that he had a mental health history, what is it that would have triggered them to go visit him and remove his guns, take his guns from him? What is it? What is necessary when we talk about red flag laws? What are the red flag laws that would have had the Las Vegas, and I'm not blaming the Las Vegas police at all, but I'm just asking that question. What are the red flag laws that would have had them visit Shane Tamora's home and taken his firearms from him because of a mental illness? That was one of the 4 things that they mentioned would have his firearms revoked.
Interesting. And it's interesting what you said about the jacket and how hot it was today. I was talking to my friends in New York City today, and they were complaining about the heat. And there were reports early on, Arif, that he may have been wearing body armor. That hasn't been confirmed. Maybe that will come out at the presser, but you're right, the jacket, what is he covering up? And I mean, could that explain also why he managed, even after, running into this police officer, still made it up to the 32nd floor?
Yeah, there has to be some sort of a mechanism in place to shut down those elevators from the top floor. It's just incredible to me when people don't realize you have an assault. Why can't we lock them in the elevator system and then force that elevator to a safe location, whether it's a particular floor where officers are waiting or the basement, garage, whatever it might be. But it just seems to me that it strikes me that there wasn't a follow-up. That female police officer was brave. She stood her ground. We know that she really took some shots. I don't know how many it took to take her life, but this particular bullet, if it's at least a 223, it could be a 308. Now, both of those are larger bullets than you would see in a handgun, but the 223 round, its diameter is the same as a 22 rifle. And that's the most common, except it's longer and it has more gunpowder. For the civilians out there, it's simple. When that bullet is fired, it tumbles once it hits something. That's why it's dangerous around body armor that's light body armor, at least, and metal, etc. It'll tumble, which means it has a much greater capacity to cause damage in the person and in the item it's fighting. It can't go through, steel, regular steel plates, but it can do a lot of damage to an individual.
Yeah, it breaks your heart to think about this female police officer. I was saying earlier, I mean, so many cops that I know, work these off-duty jobs to make extra money, and you think about her just in her off time trying to keep that lobby safe, and then this, coward comes inside. What do you make of the fact, and this is the part that I can't get over, that he's walking outside with this weapon? You would think if he would almost want to hide it before he got inside. I mean, what if a cop had seen him outside? Like, it seems almost like careless on his part.
Yeah, off-duty officers across the country are paid a little bit more to be in a police uniform, and they like the ability to not have to carry their own insurance. They're still on a workers' comp clock and injured on duty. It's called an IOD, or injured on duty, if in fact they did engage in a problem and get hurt, and yet they're covered by the city. So this happens in Los Angeles, it happens in New York, happens across the country where officers are off duty. It also means that they have access often to the rest of the department, whether they might be carrying a radio or some other mechanism to get a hold of the rest of the folks. So it would at least seem likely that somebody would have called the police, a call would have gone out, and hopefully she would have heard it had she had a radio, and said, oh, wait a second, that's my building. I'm sitting here off duty, but I'm still in a uniform. There's no way for me to hide. There are some places that officers cannot work off duty. For example, in the city of Los Angeles, you have to work in uniform if you're working a movie job, for example. But you cannot work in uniform if you're working outside of a bar or club or someplace where the propensity for danger and even violence is higher. So she must have received approval. We have to get certain work.
I don't know what this guy's talking about, really. I don't think there was a female officer, but he's talking about it. Maybe this was preliminary, and they didn't have all the facts at that point. We know that the officer that was killed, his name was Darul Islam, and he's from the 4-7 precinct in the Bronx. He was working off duty in uniform at 345 Park Avenue. He was the first person who was killed by this gunman. You can always have the Monday morning quarterbacks, the woulda, shoulda, coulda people. That's what I call them, the woulda, shoulda, coulda. And we see this man walking across the plaza, leading up to 345 Park Avenue, carrying an M4 rifle in his right hand, facing downward toward the ground, casually walking in. The perimeters of security, the layers of security, the first layer here, he's caught on video. Now the second layer, when he enters the building, he shoots and kills a New York City police officer, and then shoots the doorman, and then gets in the elevator. So I don't know why people are baffled by this. Do we think we have the National Guard at the front of these buildings? We certainly don't, you know? We certainly don't. But look, I understand everyone is in shock at this. No one wants to ever see this happen anywhere, let alone New York City in Midtown on Park Avenue and 52nd Street, a very wealthy area, commercial area. This building that contains some heavy-duty tenants like the NFL, right? And just an absolutely horrific thing. But the investigation will continue. Sprinkles 05, him in carrying in public like that shows his mental illness, in my opinion. Sprinkles, I think you're right, but it also shows that he had no intention of surviving this incident. That's what it says to me. That he walked in carrying this gun. That's clear, again, that he had no intention of surviving this. And the proof to that is he killed himself, which many active shooters end their carnage with by killing themselves. And there's a picture of Shane Tamura, the shooter, drove all the way from Las Vegas to New York City to make this statement, whatever this statement was to him, however he thought he needed to make this statement. Anyway, folks, that's our update on this. Last night when this went live, we were on another show and I really wanted to cover it. So I gave you this update this morning, and I'm sure there'll be further updates throughout the day, perhaps further press conferences. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share, and make comments. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great day, everyone, and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.